to start our show with our first guest, a return trip to our show. We haven't had him on in forever, but a frequent guest on my old radio show and on this one. And now the new head football coach at the University of North Dakota, Mr. Eric Schmidt, is good enough to join us this morning. Schmitty, it's great to see you. Congratulations, my man. Have you had a chance to sit down yet?
No, it's been crazy. It's been awesome to come back and see all the old familiar faces. You know what I mean? And I think the last time, just thinking about it when you said that, the last time I think I was on was Coach Feeney brought Alenius Davis out to the University of Washington, we got him all locked up in Seattle, and he's having a great career out there. He did a great job this year. So I actually got a text from him yesterday.
Nice.
And said, "Congrats, man! You're going home, man." I said, "You got it, man." So appreciate the text, and yeah, man. No, I'm excited. Like you said, man, it's good to see some people that really helped you on the way up, right? And talk to those guys and give them a hug and a handshake and say thanks. And now it's all day today getting in with the players here and talking to them, and obviously can be a lot of anxious moments, right? Yep. Like, these guys don't know me. The guys that, the last guys I think I recruited before I left here are the Quincy Vaughns and the Bo Belquists and those guys of the world. So it'll be I was gone for just enough time to go through an entire, roster or a recruiting class there. So it's good to get to know these guys and let them know what the direction of the program is. I always think, can be anxious, right? When you're a senior coming back and it's change and it's, hey, man, I want to have my best year. I want to make sure that I give myself the best opportunity to get developed. And these guys have, dreams and goals of playing at the next level. Or maybe you're a finally an upperclassman. You probably, got a chance to start maybe for the first time in your career. Now, what does that look like? Or you're a freshman and now all of a sudden the program's under new leadership and all that kind of stuff. So I just, the one thing I wanted to emphasize and talk to these guys about was, hey, man, it's not about the coaches. It's not about, I talked about it yesterday. When you're sitting in a meeting room, the players are obviously, in the chairs, and you have all the support staff and coaches, standing around them on the outside of those team meeting rooms. I'm like, we're going to get the right butts in the right seats around you. Like, we're going to pour into our guys and develop our guys. But at the end of the day, it's about the players. It's about the guys in those seats and the brotherhood. And you guys are going to be the ones who lead this program and are the leaders of our team, and whether that's on campus or in the locker room or whatever it is. And really just wanted to start to put, that message out there that, hey, you guys, we want to make this thing player led. If we're going to be great, like, I always think, like, hey, bad teams, nobody's leading, nobody's setting the direction. Good teams, the coaches set the direction or they're the leaders of it, but great teams, it's the players, so that was the message. And then I'll get some private one-on-one meetings here with them today and tomorrow. And it's finals week already, moving into, moving into the holidays, like you said about it. It's Army Navy week, So, Christmas is right around the corner here after that. So excited, and appreciate you too, Dom, for having us on, man. It means a lot.
I have to ask. So I was asked when Bubba's announcement came out there, well, what about Eric? I'm like, well, he was in Washington. He's at San Diego State. I mean, that's your San Diego State's going to the Pac-12. Like, I don't know. What was your initial thought process on this? Because frankly, when I heard you were in the mix, I was a bit surprised. Tell me about that.
I think the people who really knew me, like, even when I was with Kalen and those guys, they would, you'd always have those conversations. And I always said, you don't forget where you come from. At the end of the day. And I think that was true with all the guys I was around. Like, Kalen's that way. Yep. Grubb's that way. There's a bunch of guys that are in that family, with Coach Lennon and Coach Schweiger and all those guys that are, really guys that have come up through the wrestlebacks. They didn't start, you hear like starting on third base with some guys out there, like, hey, you played Division I football, so automatically, you start at that level. Like, it's guys that had to grind and, do a lot of things in order to be successful at lower levels, to get opportunities. At levels that were quote unquote the bigger schools, or however you want to look at it. But I think the guys that really knew me, like, I just got a text like, hey, man, you going back? Like, you're interested, all that kind of stuff. Hope it works out. Like, even Sean Lewis, who, is somebody that I've gotten close to here over the last year. He knew it, like, he's like, hey, I get it. Like, it's the one, sometimes you get in coaching, I think guys look at every job, right? Like, they just always want to move up the ladder. They always want to move up the ladder. Like, to me, like, I wanted to be a head coach, but I wanted to be a head coach at the right school. You know what I mean? I wanted to be the head coach at North Dakota. That was the one FCS school that is, you know what I mean, near and dear to my heart and that I have a lot of passion for. And if it wasn't that school, then, you know what I mean, I wasn't interested. Obviously, like you talked about, we were going to the Pac-12, felt like, hey, you know, you're in San Diego, California, you're going to be able to recruit really good people. You know what I mean? We got done so late last year. You know, we were playing
Yeah.
until the middle of January in the national championship game that, hey, we really felt like, hey, that's a place that you do your job, you roll up your sleeves, you go to work, you're going to be successful. But, you know, it was just the right place at the right time. Even after we got done last year, you know what I mean, in the national championship game, and I took the San Diego State job. Like I sat down with Tiff and my wife. I'm like, all right, like we've had some success here now. Like, where are some places that you feel like if they open, do you want to raise your kids? You know, my kids are 14, 12, and 8 now. And obviously it's like, hey, you know, where's a good spot for that? Like, what do we want for them? You know, and you start thinking about kind of all the other things. Football is obviously important,
Yep.
you know what I mean? And a big piece of it. But I mean, ultimately you want to go where, hey, they're going to support it. You know what I mean? Like, hey, it's important. They're going to give you the resources that you need in order to be successful. And then to do it at a place where you sat in the same chairs as the players, and you know what I mean? Like, it means a ton to you. Like, it just started to be like right place, right time. You know what I mean? Those feelings in your gut and in your heart and things like that start coming back. And it's like, hey man, let's go after this thing and let's go make a difference. And you know, as it kept going along, it just got more and more momentum towards coming back and doing it this way.
Eric, when you look at this from a 1,000-foot or even 30,000-foot angle, you know what North Dakota State, South Dakota State are. What's the biggest challenge? What's challenge now day one when you're ready to rock and roll? Like, we got to attack this and be better at this.
Yeah, recruiting. I think number one is recruiting. Like, we have to do a great job of modernizing our recruiting. We got to connect the dots with all these kids, and then we got to pour into them in the recruiting process. Like, we have to do a great job of, you know, thinking outside the box. You know, we have a first-class city here. Like, you know, a lot of business people, like getting these guys set up in the community as they're going through their process here with, you know, I mean, shadowships, internships, and showing them the holistic approach that, hey, football is going to end at some day, that you got to, you know what I mean, start to work your network outside of football, you know, and then even when they're here off it, like the developmental piece, like that's the thing that I think is different here now. We just put what, $30 million, I think, into the facilities here.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you're going to come up here and see, you know, the biggest weight room in the Dakotas. Like, you walk into that thing, it's like you walk through a tunnel and you come out into this huge facility. There's snack bars, shake bars. There's all the nutrition stuff that we have going here. So I just believe that, hey, now the player developmental piece and things that we didn't have in the past off of it, now like that becomes the centerpiece or the showcase of what we're about. And then you put the right coaches in there that can go in and say, hey man, I've developed, you know, I mean, these 6, 8, 10 guys that are all in the NFL. All you got to do is come here and follow the protocols. You know what I mean? Do what we've done. We've done it at a high level. We've been successful. And, you know what I mean? And then we have an opportunity now to be able to get those guys. And then I said it yesterday in the press conference, like, every great program has a following, right? They have a community, they have a base that's passionate about football, you know, and that's what our fans got to do. Like, how do you help off of it? Like, hey man, 1883 Collective, you know what I mean? It's the space. Like, you know what you sign up for now in college football.
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean? There's no use to blame, complain, defend when a kid leaves your program to go somewhere else. Like, if you're a fan and you want to see that kid here, then support it. You know what I mean? Help us keep them here. You know, I think that's the thing. A kid gets an offer by North Dakota and he gets an offer by North Dakota State. Like, our fan base has got to like and tweet and GIF and do all those things as much as everybody else's fan base does, because it matters to that kid. It might not matter to you as a 40-year-old middle-aged man, but hey man, when you put something on that kid's tweet or X or whatever we're calling it now and say, hey, can't wait to see you playing in Grand Forks, and you know what I mean, you win those battles, like, it matters. I've been in those Oregon, Washington, you know what I mean, spaces and things like that, and all those things I think are really important. So I think modernizing our recruiting, really doing a great job of, you know, it's still about relationships. Like, those kids got to think that, hey man, you really care for them. You got to plan for them, not only them, but their families and how they're going to be able to fit in your program and be successful. Like, at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. Like, they want to know that you got a plan, that if they follow the plan, that they got a great chance to be able to achieve their goals.
You left, I know when you left UND to go to Fresno, there were the promises of getting the facilities updated, the indoor practice facility, now the weight room, the remodels, the new turf at Memorial. to see that realized, how much more appetizing then was the job to say, okay, this was promised and now it's been delivered upon.
Yeah, it was everything, to be honest with you. You have to have the machinery and the resources, you know what I mean, in place in order to be successful.
Right.
And I think, that it just makes the job from, I mean, I'm no different than the players walking in here, right? Like the coaches aren't. Like how we feel about the place is how they're going to feel about the place. So to be able to come in here and see what our administration has done, and I'd be remiss, like, Bubba did a great job with that. Like he was a grassroots, fundraiser, and you know what I mean, and helped, his legacy as much on the field as off the field too, as well. And him being able to be instrumental and getting the dollars to be able to build what we have here now. So I think that was the clincher, whatever you want to call it. That was the closer for me. Like when you walked up here and saw some of the things that we have here. I mean, it rivals some of the best places that I've been at, and we've been at some really cool places, so it's amazing. Like it's like I said, I think, you get an opportunity to be able to come up here and see just the whole, it's a university village, right? Like our guys, here's what's going to be really cool about up here. Our guys can live where Old Memorial Stadium was. They can live upstairs. They can come downstairs. They can eat. They can study. They can come walk right into my office without going outside off of it. They can get all their football, meetings and all that kind of stuff done. They can walk what they call a hawk walk around the north end of the field off it, get to the indoor, go get all their treatments, go lift, get all the sports science stuff that they need, everything over there that, that's kind of the sweat side or the athletic side of things that you're doing. And then they can come back if they got an online class. They just go in the study center, go back to their room, their apartment, and they haven't even left outside yet.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
right.
Like it's a great setup for development. I think that's the thing that, you want to have all these things that are nice and shiny and new and all that kind of stuff, but it's got to be about, the player experience of the player's development. And I think they did a great job of having that in mind when they built all this stuff. And yeah, it's super exciting. Like to answer your question, yes, it was a huge factor in me coming back.
You have a lot of close friends that are on the current staff. I guess everyone wants to know, what's your staff going to look like for 2025?
Yeah, I mean, everybody's being considered, and I think, everybody gets how football works. Like at the end of the day, man, it's a results, orientated business. And there was definitely some things in here that, some things that needed to be improved, personnel wise, scheme wise, whatever it might be off of it. So, those guys are, like you said, really good people, really close friends, really good coaches. And I'm considering all those guys. And I think, within the next, it's highly competitive. And we're making some, I did an interview here this morning right before I got on with you. And, some of the guys too, to be honest with you, like I'm looking at guys and, they have opportunities at the highest level and they want to come and maybe call plays or coach here and get to, have an opportunity to be able to recruit and all that kind of stuff. And then, in Alabama or a Washington or something like that, they'll just walk in and they get guys like, hey, I'm going to North Dakota. They'll be like, well, here's an extra $75,000 to keep you around. So I'm fighting, all that kind of stuff, too, as well. It's just, can be a different world at times, but they're guys that I trust, they're guys that I want in my bunker with me. They're guys I know that are, they're not only good coaches, like they're good husbands, they're good fathers, they're good people. I know they're going to be able to fit in here and they're going to really value and be excited when they walk in the door here and have an opportunity to be able to coach here. They're hungry. Hungry is the wrong word. We're going to use the word starving, around here. Like they're starving, to have this opportunity. So still working through some things here. Some guys are farther along. They're committed already. It's just they have to make sure that, they meet the job descriptions.
Yeah.
And obviously, my hire and I thought it was awesome the way how clean and how organized and the timeline with Bill and Eric and the whole hiring committee. I think it was important to get somebody, and I told them this in the beginning of the process. Hey man, the portal opens, you know what I mean? And people are all like, oh, nobody's going in the portal. We talked to these guys. I'm like, yeah, good luck. You know what I mean? Like they might not, they might have told you they haven't talked to anybody, but their agents or it's just like coaches, right? Like coaches will go in front and be like, they haven't talked to anybody. Yeah, you haven't, but your agent's talked to 10 people, you know what I mean, already. So like, let's not be, you know what I mean? Let's not be naive
right? Yeah,
to the process of what's going on. So to get in front of those guys like day one and be like, hey, pump the brakes. All right. Like let's meet, let's find out like who you are, what you want, what's important to you. Like today I'm going to talk to these guys. It's not even going to be about football. It's going to be like, hey, who are you as people? You know what I mean? Like who do you respect the most in your life? Like, what do you think your biggest accomplishment is outside of football? You know what I mean? Like, give me 3 things you like about the program. Give me 3 things you don't like about the program, and just try to figure out like who they are as people, like what they're about. And then eventually it's going to be like, hey, you're not a 17-year-old kid anymore. Like, what are you looking for? This is our offense. This is our defense. This is our special teams. This is how you're going to get developed. Like, do you like this? Do you think it's something that you can see yourself fitting in? And if they say, yeah, I'm all about it, I'm going to put the gas pedal down, like, let's go. If it's not, hey man, I get it. It's changed from what, you thought it would be, 5 months ago or 5 weeks ago or whatever. And then, you shake a kid's hand, you look him in the eye, and you go find somebody that, feels like this is the right place for them. So that's where we're at right now. But yeah, obviously excited to get to know these guys. And there's some good, like, like 5 weeks ago, this place was, or whatever it was, we're 5-2 and, and top 10 in the country. So it's not like it's like, it's broke or anything like that. Like, it's very, very close. And we just got to do a good job now, like I said, of implementing our systems and the year-round calendar, whether it's in recruiting or it's in player development or it's in, whatever, and get those guys like really believe in and have some confidence in what we're doing and take the next step that way.
Couple minutes left with Eric. I'm interested. Last time we chatted, you gave us a little bit of what football is like at the big boy levels, I call it. Now that you're out of it, just describe what it's like at Washington, at San Diego State, who's going to the Pac-12. Just how crazy is it now? You mentioned I'm trying to keep a guy, like especially now, saying, hey, I'm getting talked to. I might be an all Pac-12 player, but somebody's in here and they want me.
Yeah. I mean, the best examples I'll give you is I'm at Washington and the defensive offices are on one side, the offensive offices are on the other side of the end zone. And there's a huge atrium, like recruiting area. It overlooks the stadium, and things like that. And, there'd be 4 or 5 guys sitting in there that were, representatives of Michael Penix Jr. or representatives of Roma Dudze. Like, those guys are just hanging out in your offices all day. You get to know them, you get to talk to them. And, it's just a different deal, And I think kids nowadays, like, they have to do a great job more than ever of surrounding themselves with the right people, right? Like, that's, to me, is so important. Like, back in the day, it used to be, hey, your mom and your dad, your high school coach, those are the people that you went to say, hey, coach, like, this is what I'm thinking. Like, what do you think? Give me some advice, and nowadays there's just so many other people, that are involved in these guys. There's 7-on-7 coaches, there's speed coaches, there's throwing coaches, there's, all these guys. And most of them are in it for the right reasons. Yep. They're good dudes. They want to help guys, and then there's these other people where obviously now that you can start making money, and things like that. Like, here's the crazy thing, Dom. Like, in the NFL, you got to be licensed to be an agent, right? Like, you got to go through all that. There's a certain percentage that you get from contracts and all that kind of stuff. In college football right now, it's unregulated.
Correct.
You could be anybody, And these guys will call kids up and be like, hey, I'm going to get you, X and X amount of dollars from wherever, but I'm taking 20%. I'd be like, dude, he's taking 20% from you. Like, you really think he cares that much about you, where you're going and all that kind of stuff? So, it's like, you got to educate them on all these things that, aren't about like stopping power and, and playing the post. Yep. Like, you have to do all this other stuff now. And it's awesome. Don't get me wrong. Like, it's, you get, I shouldn't say it's awesome. It's what it is, but it's what you sign up for. And it's just, it was, I told this to Bill the other morning. I go, hey, when I first got into football, probably, I can think as a high school guy in the late 90s and then college. And even before that, talking to guys, like, football never really changed from the 1960s until COVID, right? Like, it was the same. Obviously, guys got bigger, faster, stronger, and all that kind of stuff. But the rules, the structure, it was the same scholarships. Yep. It was, a scholarship meant this and all this kind of stuff. And then since COVID, it changes every day. Like, I got to go back sometimes and be like, hey, is this still the rule? Is this, are we still like, exactly. Is it still like you go to university, you go to junior college, you have to graduate from the junior college to come back to a university? Like, what are the rules? So it changes all the time. And it's crazy, but it's still about the kids, and it's still about the players, and it's still about pouring into those guys and helping those guys to, to become really good citizens, help them to become, productive people in communities, help them loving spouses and present fathers, right? That's what I talk about all the time. Like, the Christmas cards and the wedding invitations and things like that. Let's not forget about that. Like, you did a good job if you helped a kid, be able to get to that point in his life, and he still thinks to call you and, and invite you and all that kind of stuff. Like, that's still about, the coolest thing about even this thing is all the texts and that kind of stuff from the past players is you haven't talked to some of those guys and, in a couple of years or, in a few months or whatever it is. And they're still, I'm in their corner and they're in my corner. And that's still what this is all about.
Last thing before I let you go, is this the most you've ever spoke over the last 2 days?
No doubt.
Your voice is pretty good, man, for as much you've had to speak.
Yeah, I know, right? And I put my head up the other day in the press conference. I was sitting and people were filling in the back the whole time off, and I looked up and it's like, whoa, there's a lot of people here. You know what I mean? And that's the cool part about here, though, right? Like the media markets and stuff like here, like it's important. Yep. You know what I mean? It's important. And we just got to keep grinding and keep, like I said, just inch by inch by inch getting better up here. And then all of a sudden, the media from the Southern Valley has to start, doing a great job of recognizing like, hey man, there's a growing monster up there. Like we have to come up there, and recognize those guys and get those guys on the coverage. And like you have to just keep becoming so relevant. All right. That you can't be ignored, and the cool part about it right now, I think it's awesome. And this is the one thing, it's almost reverted back to a little bit of the old NCC days. Like when I first got in the Missouri Valley at Southern Illinois, it was Southern Illinois. It was Northern Iowa was really good. Yep. Western Kentucky would just left.
Yep.
They were a national power off of it. And now you come back, and that wasn't that long ago. You know what I mean? And now it's the Dakotas. Like they are, they're kind of the top of the conference now. You know what I mean? So it's exciting. It's getting back to, hey man, all these games now are going to mean something. When North Dakota, South Dakota, South Dakota State, and South Dakota play, like they're going to be not only, geographically they're going to be rivalry games, but it's probably going to mean, a playoff seed or a playoff berth or a conference championship. Like, should move all those games to the end of the season because they're all going to be huge. You know what I mean? Like we'll play everybody else at the start of the year.
You know how I feel about that. So, and next year, just by the way, coincidentally, the Bison UND game is the last game of the regular season next year. So there you go. Yeah. So
it was that, like you said, when college football never changed for all those years, It was like that, like every time in the 80s and the 90s, and you played at the end of the year, and it was a huge game. So yeah, it's the way it should be.
Last thing, I promise on this. Feeney told me you got him pretty good seats at the Sugar Bowl. He texted me last year. How did that work? I mean, he was sitting pretty darn close at the Sugar Bowl last year.
We needed him too, because when we ran out, I was like, holy cow. I thought, man, it was pretty loud in the Superdome. And then all of a sudden Texas ran out. I was like, whoa, this is a road game. You know what I mean? Like, and we played, the crazy part, we played them the year before in the Alamo Bowl, and San Antonio is like an hour from Austin. I was like, it was probably 90-10 or 85, 15. We were hoping to go to the Rose Bowl because I forgot how it all went down, but somebody lost again off it. My mind's racing right here, but we thought for sure, like, hey, we're a West Coast team. We'll go to the Rose Bowl. Then all of a sudden, I was like, God, we got to go to the Sugar Bowl. And then it was Texas again. But yeah, when the old burnt orange came out, it wasn't 50-50, man. It was a road game again. So to be able to have those two games down in the South and beat Texas both times, that was a huge accomplishment by our guys, because those were hard environments to be able to go win in.
It's great to see you, Buck. Congrats on the new gig. I know we'll be doing this frequently as things get rolling. Have a great holiday, and thanks for the time this morning, okay?
You got it. Have a good one, Dom. Appreciate you.
Eric Schmidt, new head football coach at the University of North Dakota, starting our show off with a bang here this morning. We appreciate his time, and hopefully, he's got the cough drops or whatever, because he's been talking quite a bit. One cleanup, by the way, the Bison UND game is in 26. That they'll go by is the final game of the regular season. Next 2 years, the Bison go to Grand Forks, but 26 is the last game of the regular season. We got a packed show. That was just a way to start it. Mercer head football coach Mike Jacobs is going to join us here in about 15 minutes to give us the lowdown on his football team as they get set to come up here. That's coming up at about 9:35. Jory Collins will join us at 10 o'clock. Women's basketball head coach at North Dakota State, in his usual 10 o'clock time slot. The Bison off a tough loss to Tulane, now a few days off, and they go back on the road to Washington and Boise State next week. And then at 10:35, Sam Getzinger will join us to give us the lowdown on what he's working on and showing off the athletic ability that the pride of New Prague has. That's coming up before we say goodbye. So, a packed show on tap. We're glad you're joining us. Hot mic off and rolling. Back after this on WDAY Extra, KSFL TV, and Inforum.com.